Salutations and welcome, horse racing fans. I'm Matthew DeSantis, and this is the Win Place Show podcast, which is devoted to all aspects of horse racing and handicapping, and we are proud to be part of the Amalfi Media Network. Today, we are going to kick off the start of the fall season at Keeneland that features not one, but two Breeders' Cup win and you're in races on Friday. The Grade 2 Stoll Keenon Ogden Phoenix Stakes. That's a mouthful, only going to say it once. And the Grade 1 Darley Alcibiades Stakes as well. So those are the two races we're going to preview on the podcast and video today. But of course, you can get my picks for all of the races at Keeneland on Friday by going over to amalfimedia.com and checking out my blog that corresponds with the preview. Now, before we break it all down, just a quick reminder to follow, download, rate, review, and share the Win Place Show on the podcast platform of your choice. I hope you all enjoyed my coverage of Santa Anita last week, and just to let you know, we'll be coming back tomorrow with another pod previewing the Saturday races at Keeneland. And then we'll have a preview for the Sunday races at Keeneland that will come out Sunday morning. Okay. And then that, of course, will be followed by the Monday morning race recap podcast where I go over what I got right, wrong, and everything in between and some lessons learned. Now, remember that we have horse racing content for any preferred consumption platform. If you enjoy listening, we have the podcast, obviously. If you enjoy going on YouTube and watching videos, we have the Win Place Show YouTube channel, which you can find a link to in the episode notes. And if you prefer not hearing my voice at all and simply reading, well, that's okay too, because we have the blog, as I mentioned earlier, that corresponds with each of these episodes and where I give you the Win Place Show for the picks on the entire card. And the best place to get that is to head over to amalfimedia.com or follow me on Twitter at the handle @FailedToMenace. Remember, those blogs are also a great starting point to get your stables ready for the Stable Duel Fantasy Contest, and I include fantasy stable prices with all of my picks. And while this week's focus on the podcast is on Keeneland, if you head over to Twitter and follow me at FailedToMenace, I'll be posting short previews for Santa Anita where I give you some stable duel advice and some long shot plays to round out your entries. Finally, make sure to interact with us on Twitter at FailedToMenace or on YouTube to let me know how you think the races are going to break down this weekend and share with your fellow horse racing fanatics on social media. Okay, now enough of all the self-promotion. Let's talk horse racing, and let's get to the graded stakes races. And we'll start off with the 8th race on the card at Keeneland, which is the Stoll Keenon Ogden Phoenix Stakes. I said I was only going to say it once, but I lied. I said it twice. And it is a grade 2 race for 3-year-olds and up on dirt that is 6 furlongs. So let's take a look at that field for the Phoenix Stakes. I'm not going to say it 3 times, just going to say it twice. All right. So, as I mentioned, 6 furlongs on dirt. This is a grade 2 race for 3-year-olds and up. And then we have a 7-horse field. In the number 1 post, we have Quick Tempo, trained by Christopher Davis and jockeyed by Sophie Doyle. Then Mucho, which is trained by John Alexander Ortiz and jockeyed by Raylu Gutierrez. Then Endorsed, Mike Maker Horse, jockeyed by Julian Leperoux. Just Might, Michelle Lovell is the trainer. Colby Hernandez is the jockey. Aloha West, Wayne Catalano trained and Jose Ortiz jockeyed. And then in the 6th hole, we have Special Reserve, which is another Mike Maker horse trained, jockeyed, I should say, by Joel Rosario. That is the morning line favorite at 9-5. And then finally, Sir Alfred James, which is trained by Norman Cash and jockeyed by Corey Lanier. And that's going off at 9-2. So let's talk a little bit about this field. Like I said, 7-horse race, and I think there are kind of some tiers here that you can start to look at with different horses. And Special Reserve is appropriately the morning line favorite here at 9-5. This is a horse that does have the best class in the field. If you simply look at the competition Special Reserve has gone up against in the past, if you look at the performance this horse has particularly put on in 2021. This was a horse that really saw a significant improvement when he moved to Mike Maker's barn and started being trained there. He's run 6 races this year. He's won 4 and he's finished second twice. So has not finished out of the money and not finished very far outside of the winner's circle in hardly any of the races. And those races in particular have been impressive. This is not just running in some, optional claiming races. Ran second to Lexingtonian in the Alfred G. Vanderbilt up in Saratoga. Ran in 2 grade 3 competitions, winning one of them, finishing second to Flagstaff, who just finished second last week out at Santa Anita in a stakes race. So really strong performances there from Special Reserve. And when compared to the rest of the field, has better experience and better performance at that level than any of the other horses. Now, that said, horses progress, and that's why we want to look at the rest of the field. There's a really fascinating horse in this race, Just Might, who's going off at 9-2. And the reason this is a fascinating horse is it's a horse that had been running on turf. And then 2 races ago went to dirt. And when I say had been running on turf, 21 of the horses, I want to say 29. Yeah, 21 of his 29 career starts have been on turf. So this was overwhelmingly a turf horse. And then back in August, decided to take to the dirt at a race at Colonial and beat Mucho, which is another horse in this field. Came back at Churchill a few weeks ago and ran at a non-graded stakes race and beat Endorsed, another horse in this field. So has beat 2 really good horses after leaving the turf and going to dirt. So in some ways, it feels like this horse may have unlocked something with the transition from turf to dirt. Maybe we've not seen the best of this horse. Maybe that newness wears off. That's possible. Okay. That maybe the initial, switch has somehow, really helped the horse out. But like I said, has been very impressive the last 2 times out. These were both non-graded stakes races, but still running against decent competition in both cases and winning. So I do like Just Might quite a bit there. Now, some of you might wonder why I did not immediately go to Aloha West. For those of you who've been watching this and listening to my previews for a while, because Aloha West fits my type of horse. This is a lightly raced horse that has constantly improving speed numbers, posted its best career speed number last time out, but has incrementally increased over time. And obviously there's a lot to like there. The horse does have, it took a step up to non-graded stakes competition a few races ago, didn't have the best ride, finished 4th, actually finished behind Mucho by quite a distance. So, I'm a little worried about that the one attempt to already step up in class and it didn't go as well. The performances have been at the, allowance, the optional claiming level. So we've not really made that big step up. I would have liked to seen a step up to maybe a grade 3 race. And like I said, that non-stakes race didn't really play out very well for Aloha West. So I'm a little worried about that. Obviously, you have a new jockey as well in Jose Ortiz, had previously been jockeyed by Joel Rosario and Florent Giroux. So is getting really good jockeys to ride the horse. Obviously, people see something in the horse and won the last 2 races up in Saratoga. Like I said, optional claiming races, but still, there is a lot to like there. The horse does seem to have some issues breaking. Sometimes, hit the gate last time out. It gets squeezed occasionally. Like I said, that's happened a few times, broken slowly before, pinched badly at the start. So it's had some questionable starts. I do worry about that in this high profile of a race, obviously. So Aloha West is a horse that I do like quite a bit, but I do worry a little bit about. The other horses that are interesting to me, Mucho is certainly a horse that's interesting. Lost just by a head to Just Might last time out at Colonial, but has been training well, has been posting some really strong workout numbers at Churchill Downs in September and October. So I do like the way the horse is progressing and has gotten a workout in at Keeneland, so has gotten a little bit used to the track. So I do like that. And again, has been posting improving speed numbers, had one kind of slight regression 2 races ago, but otherwise has been progressing nicely and, finishing competitively in grade 3 races, has stepped up to that grade 3 level, has run against Special Reserve actually in a couple of instances at both the grade 3 competitions at Pimlico and another one at Keeneland earlier in the spring. Finished 4th and 5th in those races, but was not that far back. I mean, these were larger fields, finished, 3 lengths off the pace. Okay, so a little bit back, but really did kind of dig in and perform okay. So Mucho is a horse that I think at 6-1 has some value to hit the board, certainly. And I like this horse a little bit more. I'll be honest, I like this horse more than Aloha West because Mucho is a little bit more of a proven commodity at this level. And you're also getting better odds. Aloha West is a horse that's going off at 3-1. I'd much rather play Mucho at 6-1 than go into Aloha West. The other horse that's going off at 9-2 is Sir Alfred James. And I'm not entirely sure what to make of this horse. This horse had been pretty consistently running kind of mid to high 80s, maybe an occasional 90 Beyer speed figure. Got claimed by Norman Cash last time out. And switched trainers and ran a 103 Beyer speed number at Churchill and just blazed the field, won by 5 3/4 lengths. By far and away the best performance this horse has ever had. There's really no explanation for it other than maybe a change in scenery because honestly, and a little bit of a layoff, this horse had not run since July, then ran in late September. So was perhaps very fresh, but this horse had been getting run on dirt at 6 to 6.5 furlongs. So it's not as if the new trainer came in and said, oh, this is really a sprint horse. We need to get him on dirt or something like that. They were running in the same types of races over and over again. So the transition from running an 85, 87 the last 2 times out to suddenly running a 103 raises some eyebrows. And I'm not entirely sure I would expect anything close to a 103 this time around. So I think there's some concern there with Sir Alfred James. I wouldn't go too crazy on putting that much money on him. I think you'd expect to see a regression, I would say, back to somewhere in the 90s. So that's kind of how I would see this. The one thing I will also say about Just Might in particular is not only has Just Might won at 6 furlongs the last 2 times out, Just Might likes to set the pace, and man alive can that horse run. That horse does not get tired. The 6 furlong race at Colonial finished in 107-4. I mean, that's flying. I mean, just to give you some perspective on that, Special Reserve, who has been running against some of the best competition in the country, hasn't sniffed 107-4 in quite a while. Okay? Alfred G. Vanderbilt, Lexingtonian, ran 109-1 over 6 furlongs. Even at the Iowa Sprint, which Special Reserve won easily, still was only at a 108 flat. So, 108s and 4s, 109 and 1s. I mean, so Just Might is not throwing up. He's not throwing up cheap figures here. I mean, he's really blazing. And like I said, he's the one setting that pace. So it's not as if he's running into this crazy speed. He's the one setting the crazy speed and keeping it up for all 6 furlongs. So again, there's a lot to like there, I think. So how do I see the Phoenix Stakes playing out. I told you I was only going to say the full name twice. How am I going to see the Phoenix Stakes playing out? Well, I fully admit that Special Reserve is appropriately the morning line favorite. If I was setting the morning line odds, I would totally, absolutely agree with this. But that said, I really love the value on Just Might, and I think this horse can win. And so I'm going to go with Just Might to win. A Special Reserve is too classy a horse not to finish in the top two. So I do have Special Reserve to place. And then I actually have Mucho to come in as a little bit of a long shot to show. So again, how do I see the Phoenix Stakes playing out? Just Might to win, Special Reserve to place, Mucho to show. All right. Well, now let's transition to a race for the ladies, the 2-year-old fillies, and that's the Darley Alcibiades Stakes Grade 1 win and you're in race. That is a 1.16 miles. So let's take a look at that field, which is much larger, a 12-horse field. And starting off in post position 1, you have Juju's Map, who is the morning line favorite, trained by Brad Cox and jockeyed by Florent Giroux. Then Misinterpret, trained by Todd Pletcher and jockeyed by Jose Ortiz. Then Sequest, trained by Dallas Stewart and jockeyed by Junior Alvarado. In the number 4 hole, you have Dreamlift, trained by Robertino Diodoro and jockeyed by Adam Bashiza. And then in the number 5 hole, she's my favorite, or my favorite daughter, I should say. Jeff Engler is the trainer and Corey Lanier is the jockey. Mama Rena in the 6 hole, trained by Ken McPeak and jockeyed by Julian Leparoux. Then another Brad Cox horse, Metarea, jockeyed by Joel Rosario. And then Distinctly Possible, trained by Chad Brown and jockeyed by Tyler Gaffleone. Coming into the 9 hole is Pipeline Girl, trained by Tom Amos and jockeyed by James Graham. Then Penny Saver, another Ken McPeak horse, jockeyed by Brian Hernandez Jr. Then Diamond Wow, a horse trained by Patrick Bianconi and jockeyed by Mike Smith. And then finally in the 12 hole, you have Run Up, trained by Laura Wohlers and jockeyed by Joseph Ramos. So how do I see the Darley Alcibiades Stakes playing out? Well, it's a fascinating race. And I say it's fascinating because it's a lot of 2-year-old fillies, and you never know what you're going to get with 2-year-olds. Sometimes chalk wins out. Sometimes there's a clear class in this field. Other times it's a little bit of a question mark. I think this time it's a little bit of a question mark. What makes it a little bit of a question mark is the distance. 1.16 miles. Only 2 of these horses have actually run that distance in a race. We're going to get to talking about at least one of those in a moment. Most of these horses have run a mile, but actually most of them, only a couple have run a mile. Most of them have actually run 7 furlongs, 6 furlongs, 6.5 furlongs. Therefore, this is a step up in distance, and you just don't know how that's going to play out. Especially because when you look at this field, there's about 5 horses that want to be on the lead. And I got news for you, folks. They're not going to go 5 wide going into the first turn, okay? So all 5 horses that want to get on that early speed are not going to be able to get on that early speed. And so it's going to be very fascinating to see how things break out at the break, who goes to the lead, how do they position themselves around the track? Who's able to get that distance saving ride? Who's able to set the early pace? How much is that early pace pushed, etc.? Those are questions that we quite frankly don't have the answers to yet because most of these horses are only going into their 2nd, 3rd, or maybe at best 4th race. So there's still a lot of unknowns with how they're going to perform. That's what you just have with 2-year-olds. And that said, this is an opportunity for these horses to punch a ticket to the Breeders' Cup as a win and you're in race. And I think there's a lot of talent in this particular field. And so I want to start by talking about one of the horses that has that experience at 1.16 miles, and that's Penny Saver. Penny Saver, I think, actually provides really good value and is a horse that I kind of went back and forth on in terms of how much I like Penny Saver. And I'll tell you all the reasons why I like her a lot, and then maybe one reason why I'm hesitant. This is a horse that has won at 1.16 miles the last time out. And not just won by 9.5 lengths. So, hello, clearly the best horse in the field by a mile. Maybe not a mile, but by a pretty good distance, by practically a furlong. And so I really like the horse in that regard. Has trained well, has kind of increased. If you take a look at the racing form, you'll see this is a horse that has raced at increasingly expensive maiden special weight races, going from 99,000 to 100 to 119. So we're seeing an evolution. The second race of this horse's career was on turf. Didn't respond particularly well, ran kind of a distant fourth, went back to dirt, at a mile and a 16th, did great. It should also be pointed out the horse's maiden was at 5 furlongs and came in kind of a non-competitive second, finished about 3 lengths back and second in that race at Churchill. So I don't think it's necessarily a sprint horse. Clearly, distance is something this horse likes, and a distance on dirt in particular is something this horse likes. I like the fact that out of a race full of unknowns in terms of distance, this horse is a known quantity at a mile and a 16th. And to me, that means a lot, especially when you have horses going up for the first time at a mile and a 16th. It's one thing if you're looking at an older division race and a horse might be taking a step up, going from a mile and a quarter to a mile and 3/8 or something like that. That's different. I'm not worried about that as much. But for young horses, I'd like to see the distance being done, especially because I don't think there's not a Corniche, there's not an Echo Zulu in this field. So I don't think there's a horse that's just so incredibly good they're just going to blow everybody in away and it doesn't matter what the length is. So I do like Penny Saver, has experience on 2 turns, knows what to do, and that's one of the big reasons I like the horse quite a bit. And at 4-1, you're getting decent value. I mean, this is not even the morning line favorite, and so I do like this horse quite a bit for that price. The one hesitancy I have, and there's always a but. There's always a but. I've talked about this before. No matter how much you like a horse, there's always a however. The however here is the horse ran 2 weeks ago. I don't love that. I don't love that for this distance. I don't love that this horse is running a mile and a 16th, 2 weeks apart from each other. And I'm a little worried about stamina. I'm a little worried about, if this horse is going to wear down a little bit down the stretch. I still do think this horse is going to be a major factor. So I like this horse quite a bit. Now let's talk a little bit about the morning line favorite, Juju's Map, who I understand why is the morning line favorite. Metronome-like workout numbers. It just seems to always run 59.3 workouts. A lot to like with this horse. Very classy. Brad Cox, very successful trainer. Florent Giroux. I do worry a little bit about him pushing Juju's Map out onto the lead, which is where this horse really likes to run, especially in a big field. So I'm a little worried about the jockey there, especially coming out of that 1 hole. That's not a spot I love for Florent Giroux or for Juju's Map. So that's why I'm a little worried about the horse. That said, this horse does have speed. This horse can run and ran a really strong mile last time out at Ellis Park. Ran a 1:35.2 mile and really just blazed the field, was setting the pace the whole way around, won easily by over 5 lengths. So Juju's Map is as a horse to be taken seriously. I do just worry about the jockey/post pairing. That concerns me a little bit. But certainly a very classy horse and a very expensive horse, purchased for $300,000 as a yearling. Although that's not the most expensive horse, I believe Distinctly Possible, which is an 8-1 shot that has only run 1 career race at Saratoga. That horse went for $670,000. So you do see some high-priced fillies in this race, and not all of them necessarily, I think, are going to play out as being elite horses. So, like I said, Juju's Map, a little worried about the post position there. I'll give you a horse that I do like from a value standpoint, which is Run Up. Run Up is a horse that won at a mile last time out at Monmouth, I should say, and ran in a non-graded stakes competition. The mile, it's so fascinating. Every race is a little bit different. That mile that Run Up ran was a full 4 seconds slower than the mile Juju's Map ran. Now, again, every race is its own race. And the fact that Run Up was able to really slow things down in the back stretch, it seems like, and around that final turn, that tells me that, the horse was able to be jockeyed pretty effectively to save a lot of ground. This is a 12-1 long shot. I understand why, because it doesn't have maybe the upper end speed. That said, I love this horse's last two workouts. Went to both at Keeneland. Two previous workouts were a 111 and 2 6 furlong workout, which is flying. And then the last time out was a 3 furlong bullet workout, 34 and 1. So this horse has intentions to go for the lead. And I really like that. I do worry a little bit in that outside post position. That's a lot of ground to move over. It certainly, in sprint races, a lot of times you do like that outside post position. I just worry in a 12-horse field. Again, that's a lot of people to try to get around. But I mean, honestly, that last workout was brilliant for where this horse is posted, because she's going to have to use that speed to get out on the lead. And then maybe she can slow it down a little bit. Now, there are a couple of horses that just befuddle me in this race a little bit. One is Mamarina, who's a horse that does like the distance, has done okay there. But this is a horse that I think is clearly a turf horse, done well the last first two times out on turf, and then went back and ran in the Grade 3 Pocahontas and got crushed by Hidden Connection by 9 1/4 lengths. Did finish second, but again, I just don't know about this horse being on dirt. I think probably better on turf. And then the other one is Diamond Wow, which is going off at 8-1. Another horse that won on turf first time out, was going to run on turf second time out, but got taken off turf, won on a fast track on the dirt. But I think this is still ultimately a turf horse and has been training on turf. That's the real kicker, is even leading up to this race has been working out on turf. So Diamond Wow at 8-1, people might see, the two finishes and some really strong and improving speed numbers. And I do like the horse. I just don't like the horse in this particular spot. I'm also a little worried about Mike Smith there, but overall, I just, some horses that I'm surprised are running in this race, given their turf pedigree. And I think that given some of the success that they've had on turf to this point. So the other horse that I will mention is Monterey, who had a monster maiden at 6.5 furlongs and won with ease with Florent Giroux aboard, and is now being jockeyed by Joel Rosario. I love this horse. I think this horse is going to do great things. Brad Cox trained, Joel Rosario jockeyed, bred by Godolphin. That's a strong combination that you never want to sneeze at. I'm just worried about distance. I understand, it has good pedigree for distance, but 6.5 furlongs was the first race. And this is a pretty big step up in class, and this is a step up in distance. And as I mentioned, not everybody's going to be able to get to the lead. And I really do like Run Up to get to the lead, given those workouts, and even Penny Saver potentially getting close to the lead as well. So I just worry Monterey might be shuffled back a little bit. We'll see. I mean, Joel Rosario is as great of a jockey as there is in terms of navigating and weaving through traffic, but I still worry a little bit about how that horse will work out. But certainly a horse at 4-1 that presents some value and some upside. So how do I see the Darley Alcibiades Stakes race playing out? Well, I'm going to go with Penny Saver. I'm going to put my caution over just running 2 weeks ago to the side. I think this horse does have a lot of class and presents a little bit of value. So I have Penny Saver to win. I have Juju's Map to place, and I have Run Up to show. And that's the way that I see the Alcibiades Stakes playing out. Okay. Well, that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed the preview of the Friday races at Keeneland, and remember to tune back tomorrow for my races for the Saturday races at Keeneland, and then a nice, easy Sunday morning podcast to get you prepped for the final weekend races at the Great Kentucky Track. And as always, on Monday morning, I'll be back to give you what I got right, what I got wrong, and lessons learned from the weekend. Finally, just remember to follow, download, rate, review, and share the Win Play Show on the podcast platform of your choice, and subscribe to the Win Play Show on YouTube, in addition to following me on Twitter at the handle at Failed to Menace. And of course, remember, check out amalfimedia.com for my picks for the entire Keeneland card and all the great horse racing content you need to get you through the Breeders' Cup and beyond. Well, friends, until next time, which is tomorrow, I'm Matthew DeSantis, wishing you a great and prosperous day at the races and reminding you that it's now post time.